trend up in professional and business services, social assistance, and health care. However, employment declined in leisure and hospitality. The Federal Reserve considers the employment situation when it decides what to do about interest rates. The Fed meets again July 28th and 29th.
Fox's Jeanne Cosola. Economists also expected the unemployment rate to hold at 4.3%. Instead, it dipped to 4.2%. A search continues in the Arabian Sea for a U.S. Navy sailor missing since yesterday after a Navy helicopter made an emergency landing on the water.
U.S. Naval Forces Central Command posted to X saying there is no indication the emergency was caused by hostile action. 3 of the helicopter's 4 crew members have been recovered and are in stable condition aboard George H.W. Bush.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. That incident remains under investigation. Progress reported in Qatar after indirect talks between U.S. and Iranian officials. This as Iran warns the U.S. and Israel against any attacks during a days-long funeral for the country's slain supreme leader.
Talks between the U.S. and Iran are paused for the funeral of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The former supreme leader was killed in U.S. and Israeli airstrikes on the opening day of the war on February 28th. His funeral is set for July 4th through the 9th. Iranian military and political leaders are warning the U.S. and Israel against any attacks as it prepares for the state funeral. The country is tightening security measures for the funeral period, restricting airspace over several cities.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. A dramatic rescue in Venezuela where a man has been pulled alive from a collapsed basement more than a week after the double earthquakes now blamed for more than 2,200 deaths. America is listening to Fox News.
Now, your official weather forecast.
This afternoon, expect hazy sunshine with a breeze, very hot and humid conditions, and the possibility of a thunderstorm in a spot or two. The high will reach 95. Tonight will be rather cloudy, warm, and humid with a few showers and a heavy thunderstorm. These storms could lead to flash flooding and damaging winds. The low will be 74. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Hugh Hewitt explains why Iran cannot get a nuke.
If Khomeini 2.0 and Vahidi get their hands on any nuclear weapon, they will use it against Israel. And they will, if they're going down in nuclear fire, they're going to take down everyone who helped Iran along the way. They're not going to get a nuclear weapon on Donald Trump's watch or on Benjamin Netanyahu's watch.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Alex Marlowe at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Born on America's darkest day, 9/11/01, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been helping American heroes ever since. Heroes like FDNY Lieutenant Edward J. McDonough Jr. McDonough served at Ground Zero. He later lost his life to a related cancer. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation was able to honor his sacrifice by paying off the family's mortgage. Donate $11 a month, and you can amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Just go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit information kit. 800-809-7171. That's 800-809-7171.
Hello?
Sir, this is Officer Peterson. There's been a string of break-ins in the area, and your office, it was hit.
Hit? What do you mean? We were robbed?
Looks like the back door lock was easily pried open, and they moved through the building like they knew exactly what to take. We see wires everywhere. No computers.
What? No computers? I just upgraded everything.
Looks like they moved fast. We only found out because a neighboring business had their alarm go off. Do you have any security cameras?
No. Nothing.
Don't wait until it's too late. Goldilocks protects Chicagoland businesses with custom security solutions. From reinforced commercial doors with keyless entry to cameras and 24/7 monitoring that alerts authorities immediately. Schedule a free on-site assessment at GoldilocksInc.com. Again, that's GoldilocksInc.com. Plus, AM 560 listeners get their first 3 months of monitoring free with a new install. Call 708-889-5600. That's 708-889-5600. Goldilocks, Chicago's premier locksmith doors and security systems company since 1981.
Time's up. The IRS isn't waiting. They're coming for your paycheck, your bank account, even your home. You ignored the letters, you thought it would go away, It won't. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, you are already in the crosshairs of the IRS. Wage garnishments, bank levies, tax liens, they're not threats, they're next. But here's the truth. You still have a chance to fight back. This is Patrick Noon with PJN Tax Solutions Group. We are a local tax resolution firm located right here in St. Charles, Illinois. Don't call some 1-800-FIRM 10 states away. We're right here. Call us now at 630-415-5296. We don't do fluff. We get results. Call us now, 630-415-5296. That number again, 630-415-5296. Or just Google, I want the IRS off my ASS.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
The following live program is sponsored by Breakthrough Ideas.
AM 560, The Answer. It's time for breaking news, expert insight, and informed commentary on what's happening in Springfield, Chicago, and beyond. Because an informed citizenry is the only way to protect our republic. It's time for The Real Story with Jeanne Ives and Amy Jacobson.
You can say what you want, you can throw stones, but on the worst day, it's still home sweet home. You can't kill the idea that put its roots deep down in dust and blood. Done a whole lot of bending, but you can't make her break. Hello, high water, that flag's gonna wave. If you wanna know what keeps this crazy thing standing up, it's the United States of America.
So that's John Kahn, singer John Kahn, and his good friend Michael Farron. They've collaborated together to create a new song for America. It celebrates the people who built this country and made something beautiful and still make it beautiful. Of course, John Kahn is known for his Trump-inspired anthem, Fighter, which went to #1 on Billboard's digital sale chart and was embraced by President Trump, who shared it widely on social media. Everybody's doing their part to help people remember what made America great. And so we're going to do that too today. And the news will be with us at all times. There's always really terrible news to report on and some good news too. But we're going to pause today and we're going to talk about some of the history behind the Revolutionary War. And as we build up to this weekend's July 4th celebration and America's 250th birthday, I want to welcome back Dan Davis. He is the historian and principal for interpretation and special projects with America's Battlefield Trust. America's Battlefield Trust not only preserves the hallowed land on which patriots fought America's wars in the United States, but the trust rehabilitates that land and then adds historical markers, artifacts, mapping, displays, online resources, and more so that Americans can learn about our nation's history and the consequential people who defended her in battle. Dan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Great to be back.
Well, the focus now turns to Philadelphia, and we did have you back on in May to talk about sort of the build-up to this moment and some of the war effort prior to this. Again, the battle's been going on now for over 14 months, starting out with Lexington and Concord back in April of 75. But now we focus on Philadelphia and the meeting of the men who would pledge their lives, fortune, and sacred honor to the cause of the revolution. They stopped to do this in the middle of war. At this point, the British are much better resourced, but they failed to defeat in early battles the Patriots, which are nothing more than a ragtag bunch, still poorly equipped and trained. Can you tell us a little bit more about, at this point in the war, describe the battles won, lost, the forces, where they're positioned, and the status of the forces in terms of numbers?
Yeah, so it's been sort of a mixed bag for the Patriots or the Continentals. They've had a failed invasion of Canada. That force has been pushed back down to Fort Ticonderoga in the Hudson Valley along Lake Champlain. But as you're moving really from north to south, they've had victories at Boston. They've had victories in Virginia at Great Bridge, then again in North Carolina at Moores Creek. But then most recently, and although the delegates to the Continental Congress won't find out about this until several days later, the Continental forces outside Charleston, South Carolina have just turned back a British attack to capture the city. But most pressing for them at that moment is not only the idea of separating from Great Britain, but also in fact, 250 years ago today, British General William Howe will begin landing a force that's going to amount to roughly about 33,000 men on Staten Island to begin the efforts to capture New York City. He's being faced by George Washington. Washington has roughly about 18 to 20,000 men at his disposal.
So, they take this pause from a battle and they decide that, look, we need to come together and put together this document, which I guess has been in the works for about a month. But why was it imperative that the revolutionary leaders put the Declaration of Independence together at this time? It seems like the needs of the war effort should have been their biggest concern, but instead it was the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, and it really starts at the colony or at the state level. There's a sort of a groundswell and a domino effect. In April of 1776, North Carolina gives permission to their delegation of the Continental Congress to vote for independence. That's going to be followed by Virginia, Connecticut. It's going to fall in line. Delaware is going to fall in line. Rhode Island, New Jersey, and then eventually Pennsylvania. So it's really coming from the states and the colonies where the local assemblies are essentially granting permission to take on this question of independence. And it's put forth very eloquently, I think, by Richard Henry Lee of Virginia on the 7th of June, 1776, about separating from Great Britain. While at the same time, the Congress knows that there's still a little bit of consternation at the idea of actually declaring independence. They're going to take somewhat, not so much of a recess, but they're going to table Lee's resolution for several weeks to allow the delegates to get instructions. And it's during that time frame, those 2 to 3 weeks from June 7th up until, in fact, today, July 1st, July 2nd, that a committee will be formed to begin drafting what we know today as the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, so that committee, it was a 5-man committee, including Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, John Adams, and they're tasked with writing the Declaration. Jefferson ends up writing most of it. What are some of the details about the actual writing of the document that we'd find interesting, or things that we don't know about, and its inspiration, any edits, any controversy of note?
Yeah, I think what's interesting about starting with the committee, what's interesting, what I think people forget, is that obviously Jefferson, Adams, and Franklin are the three major players on the 5-person committee. The other two are Roger Sherman of Connecticut and Robert Livingston of New York. It's interesting that Livingston is actually on the other side of the fence. He's not a proponent of independence. So to sort of give that voice, that opposition voice, he's put on, I think, the committee. It takes Jefferson about 2 weeks to draft the document itself. He's drawing from his own work. He's drawing from the work of fellow Virginian George Mason, as well as also some of the major thinkers of the Enlightenment, specifically John Locke. And I think it's also interesting that Jefferson is put on the committee to draft it because he's educated at the College of William and Mary in Virginia and Williamsburg. He's an attorney, but he also is a delegate that comes to Philadelphia, and he just pretty much gets along with everybody. He's very quiet. He's very courteous. Everyone likes him, and I think that's one of the main reasons why he's chosen to be on the committee and then draft the Declaration.
Livingston, I mean, he's interesting too. I was just reading recently about how he really did not necessarily want independence. He comes to the cause, and of course he's very wealthy, and he ends up essentially losing it all and losing his life during the war.
Yeah, and it's probably one of the great ironies of that he's part of the committee. He's not so much anti-independence, but he does not really fall in line at first, and then obviously he passes away.
Yeah. So the document is more, though, than just a declaration that all men are created equal. It's also a laundry list of grievances. I assume, obviously in that time frame, there's no template. They're not following anybody else's, Declaration of Independence. This is kind of a first of all in the world. But this grievance listing was obviously a very important aspect of the document because it's actually the main part of the document. Why is that? And does it stem from their reluctance to go to war, or is it to convince fellow countrymen to get behind the revolution because of these grievances and they needed to write it out?
I think it's because the document is so unique. Up until that point in time, really in world history, you don't see a document like the Declaration of Independence. We know about the preamble at the beginning and then the actual declaration itself in the end, but sandwiched in between is those list of grievances. And I think it's also, those list of grievances are there for a couple of reasons, not only so much to try to certify or solidify the reasons for declaring independence to the other colonists, but also to convince other colonists somewhat to come over to their side. You just talked a little bit about Robert Livingston, but I think also to show the world that knowing how unique this document is, this is why these colonies, they have to outline to the world as to why these colonies are breaking away from Great Britain.
Yeah, and it wasn't so much that, taxation without representation, although I think that that's just something that grade school kids have learned over and over again. Oh, that's, it was all about taxes. It really wasn't. It was about self-government more than anything.
Yes, absolutely. And Jefferson is actually going to see, unfortunately for him, if you're Thomas Jefferson, he actually has to sit and bear witness to not only the Committee of Five, but also the Congress as well, essentially ripping his original draft to shreds. I think there's around 80 changes to the original document, and about a quarter, 25% of the original document is actually taken out or shelved and changed.
Wow. Okay, so another bit of consternation. Apparently, John Adams thinks that July 2nd should have actually been the day that we celebrate Americans' independence, because that's the day where they actually made a decision to put this document to paper. But we celebrate July 4th. So why is that? How did this all come about? How long did it take them to decide? What were the arguments? I think it was physically demanding, right? They were all locked in a hot room with the windows closed.
Yeah, absolutely. As we know, it gets hot in July on the eastern seaboard. I'm in Fredericksburg, Virginia right now. We're in the triple digits. But after the resolution is tabled, it is brought back to debate on July the 1st. Doors are locked. There's an all-day session. And then it's on July 2nd that with 12 colonies, one abstaining, the one abstention is New York, who will eventually vote in favor of the declaration. On July 2nd, 250 years ago today, the delegates will vote to, in fact, declare independence. And then you have roughly a period of about 36 to 48 hours where they debate Jefferson's document, the actual declaration itself. And on July the 4th is when Congress will vote to ratify and approve the declaration in its entirety.
And were there any folks in that room that said, I'm not signing it?
No. And what's interesting is nobody actually signs it on July the 4th.
Okay, that's right.
There are 200 printed copies that are put out into circulation. The first public reading is not going to come until July the 8th, so we're still several days out. But it's going to be handwritten, and the delegates are going to come back on August 2nd, just a little less than a month later, and 50 of the 56 will sign it. And over the course of the next several months, the remaining 6 will sign it. The last actual signer, the signing of it does not take place until, I believe, January of 1777.
Okay. Wow. I actually didn't know that. I think everybody just assumes, oh, yeah, the Declaration was signed on July 4th. That seems to be the colloquial narrative, but that's actually not true. So, there's the other interesting thing I think about July 4th, of course, is the fact that both John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, 50 years to the date, die. And it just seems providential almost.
Yes, almost. And these are two men who have been really two very important figures in the early stages of our nation's history, who've been very close themselves through of course, the American Revolution into the Federalist era. But they had fallen out of favor with one another based on Jefferson's they differed in politics as time went by, and eventually they would just completely stop talking to one another. But there's a mediation that is done, and they begin writing again later on in life. It's one of the it's just a really fascinating story. It's really an amazing story that has its roots in Philadelphia in 1776 that carries forward until the day that they pass on.
It's just remarkable. Well, Dan, there's 6 more years of fighting in this war. If it's okay, we'll check in with you later to recall more of the monumental battles that secured our freedom. We'd love to have you back.
That sounds great to me.
All right.
Happy to join. Happy 4th to everybody.
Happy 4th of July to you. Happy Independence Day, actually. All right. We'll be right back. This is The Real Story with Jeanne Ives and Amy Jacobson.
You're listening to The Real Story with Jeanne Ives and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
The following contains a celebrity impersonation.
Mr. President, we're seeing reporting that air conditioning systems are failing as temperatures rise. What is your response?
I said, don't wait. People wait until the last second, then suddenly it's hot and nothing works. I understand this stuff probably better than anybody.
Mr. President, why hasn't the White House issued any guidance?
I gave perfect guidance. Call Air Right Heating and Cooling. That's the guidance. If people followed it, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Sir, but homeowners have so many HVAC options.
They're not like Air Right. You've got some bad installers out there, some real bad hombres. I wouldn't let them near the White House. It would be a complete disaster.
Mr. President, there are reports of significant rebates on new systems. Can you confirm?
I've heard about them. A lot of people talking about them. If you miss out, you'd have to be really not so smart. Tremendous savings, let me tell you.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling at AIR-RITE.com. Air Right, doing it right since 1959.
If you've saved $100,000 or more for retirement, call Steve Shyman today at 833-945-7283. That's 833-WILL-SAVE, 833-WILL-SAVE. Schedule your no-cost, no-obligation retirement review and make sure your plan is built to protect what you've worked so hard to earn. And don't forget to listen to Steve's show, Protecting Your Assets, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. right here on AM 560. Call now, 833-945-7283.
Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, add evenings of conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
With things moving fast to resolve the situation in the Middle East, the headlines may change, but the fundamentals haven't. America's debt continues to climb, and uncertainty still hangs over the global economy. That's why investors continue turning to one asset that has stood the test of time: physical gold and silver. For generations, gold has been viewed as a safe haven asset during periods of geopolitical tension and market volatility. That's why Advantage Gold wants to send you a free gold investment guide valued at $49, plus a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's acclaimed book, Our Dollar, Your Problem, when you call 800-900-8000. Discover why central banks are buying gold, why many Americans are diversifying with precious metals, and how a tax and penalty-free rollover into physical gold and silver may fit into your retirement strategy. Don't wait until the next crisis dominates the headlines. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000 right now. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000.
AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back. This is Jeannie today. Amy is off today, but thanks for joining me on this holiday week where we, look back to our history and what it means to us. And then we absolutely wonder, what the hell's going on with all these illegal immigrants taking over our country and getting more benefits than we are and getting favorable treatment in the courts? What's going on with that? I mean, when you listen to people like Dan Davis and you understand the fight that went on for 7.5 years to win our independence from Britain, and we can't stand up to the Democrat Socialists of America, to the Democrat Party that would prefer that we actually just let illegal immigrants come on in, waltz on in, drop your baby, get all the benefits you want. But it's worse than that, isn't it? And of course, Sheridan Gorman's mother spoke to that in committee this week in Congress.
Explain why cooperation with ICE was too much to ask for, but asking our American parents to bury our children is somehow acceptable. Ask me. I need you to tell me.
It's not acceptable. But they have no answers for her. She went on to say this. This is Jessica Gorman.
Because my Sheridan Grace Gorman should still be alive. And no mother should have to stand where I am standing, begging elected leaders to value my child's life after it's already too late. I cried when I came into the room. I saw this poster that you made. It says, at every stop, the system had a chance to stop him. At every step, it failed. And my daughter paid for those failures, your failures, with her life. No family should ever have to bury a child because public officials fail to put American lives first. I'm just asking you to choose us. We choose you. We choose you. Choose us. Why does my child matter less than an illegal immigrant? Why? Listen, I have a heart. I love immigrants. Two of my best friends in this whole world are immigrants. They came here the right way. I absolutely think they make America beautiful. But my daughter's beautiful too.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about illegal immigrants. And the Democrats want open borders, and they're electing people like, the new chick out of Colorado. Forgot her name, as a matter of fact. Yeah, she's going to make it to Congress. Not only does she reject our laws on immigration, she rejects, she's all about pro-Hamas. She's all about taking your money and giving it to anybody else. Well, Congresswoman Jayapal made a real jerk of herself in that committee. Here's what she said.
Unfortunately, this hearing is, it's the fourth time in this committee that we've had a hearing on sanctuary cities. The fourth time. And there's many other things that we could be doing other than this.
Yeah, sure. But there's nothing more important than this. There's nothing more important than protecting the American people. And we don't care if it's 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, until you get it across to your party that the American people are not going to stand for its American citizens to get eviscerated, killed in cold blood, raped, murdered, stolen from, scammed on. Like you Haitians, Somalis, you name it, multiple scams going on there. Until you get it across, we're not going to stop. Nobody can stop. This can't go on. Again, Jessica Gorman.
And I understand that you're here for a reason. I don't understand why it's only the Republican side that cares about our American children. And I know that you're a mother. I know that you're a father. I deeply value that. But basically what you just did, what you said was, I'm so sorry for your loss. I have a daughter too. I have a son. I feel your pain. You don't. You don't feel my pain. Because the next words out of your mouth were, but. There's no but. When your child is in a coffin, there's no but. And I need you to understand that. And if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here. I'm going to buy you a bench. You can put that on the record. I'm going to buy Congress a bench. And they can come and sit and hold my hand and look me in the eye and explain to me why illegal immigrants are more important than my daughter. I really want to know because I don't understand.
We appreciate you, Jessica Gorman. We appreciate you for getting emotional in front of them. They had to see that. They had to understand that. People need to hear that. And everybody needs to share this information and these clips that you find on social media and then share it with your friends. And this can't continue. And oh, by the way, the Oversight Committee, the House Oversight Committee, 0 Democrats showed up for our discussion today on unaccompanied alien children. Witnesses described to Rep. Eli Crane how cartels would create Sears-like booklets of children for trafficking. This included charging more for younger children or virgins. Democrats don't care. They don't. And it's going to get worse if these people, these DSA candidates, make it all the way to Congress. We got a lot of work to do, folks. This is our time to get involved in the revolution. We'll be right back with more from America's Battlefield Trust.
Scott Jennings is a little skeptical.
Color me skeptical that the Iranians, particularly the ones in the IRGC, woke up this week with a new attitude. That seems very unlikely. But there is hope out there that the Middle East can be remade through this process, particularly through the ultimate goal of keeping the Iranian terrorists from having a nuclear weapon.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Fox News, I'm Jeanne. A security guard rescued from a collapsed shopping mall 8 days after the twin earthquakes destroyed parts of northern Venezuela.
As the death toll from last week's twin earthquakes surpasses 2,200. Right now, about 50,000 people are still missing, and officials estimate nearly 60,000 buildings are damaged or destroyed.
That's Fox's Carly Shimkus. The couple who climbed to the top of New York City's Empire State Building appearing in court.
Ivan Kuznetsov and Angelina Nicolau are free on supervised release 1 day after being arrested on charges including reckless endangerment and burglary. With no tethers, they balanced on a narrow ledge atop the Empire State Building's antenna on Wednesday and unfurled a banner. Then he proposed and they kissed before climbing down to meet police.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. America's listening to Fox News.
Now, your official weather forecast.
This afternoon, expect hazy sunshine with a breeze. It'll be very hot and humid with a chance of a thunderstorm in a few areas. The high temperature will reach 95. Tonight, it will be rather cloudy, warm, and humid with a few showers and a heavy thunderstorm. These storms may lead to flash flooding and damaging winds. The low will be around 74. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Progressive Insurance. Progressive can protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, RV, and more. In short, a lot of things. Bundle today at progressive.com.
Food, fuel, jobs. It all starts with homegrown Illinois corn. Driving a $148 billion economic impact, corn supports thousands of jobs and strengthens communities across our state. It's advancing cleaner burning biofuels, expanding plant-based manufacturing, and growing a renewable economy. Illinois corn isn't just an agricultural success, it's a strategic investment in energy, innovation, and economic growth. See what's possible at ilcorn.org.
It's Reveille. Ronald Reagan famously said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." Reagan made this remark in 1967 at his first inauguration as governor of California. His remarks came 22 years after the end of World War II and in the midst of the Vietnam War and the start of radical socialist political unrest on college campuses. We've seen this before. Just 6 years before his remarks, the Berlin Wall was constructed and communism was ascendant and prolific in all parts of the world. The greatest generation, which had fought fascist Germany and understood the real threat of communism because they saw and experienced it directly, were fortunately at that time in control of government, industry, and the culture. They heeded Reagan's warning, elected him president in 1980, and in most cases lived to see the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and communist Eastern Europe a few years later. This greatest generation were men and women like my father, who served in World War II and earned a Bronze Star in the Korean War. Memorial Day, July 4th, Veterans Day, they proudly raised the flag, attended the local parade, and placed their hand over their hearts as the American flag passed by. Now in 2026, as we celebrate our 250th birthday and the founding of the greatest nation on earth, the nation that first set out in writing that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with inalienable rights, and that they are to be the authors of their government, not ruled by a king. The takeover of the Democrat Party by radicals reminds us that the American Revolution isn't over. It's ongoing. The Democrat socialists in New York, Muslims enamored with Hamas in Michigan, and the anti-capitalists in California, Illinois, and elsewhere are a threat to our founding principles. American patriots in this generation must do their part. The fight for independence and liberty continues. I'm Jeanne Ives. Join me on The Real Story Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
AM 560, The Answer.
Okay, perfect choice. You might get a bonus to my producer playing the Army song. Way to go. I like that. It's awesome. That's right. We date way back. In fact, we had our 250th anniversary last year. That's right. The American Army, the Illinois. So there you go. So lots of good celebrations going around. Fortunately, people are getting into the swing of America 250 and celebrating our independence. It's so great to see that. I was at an event on Tuesday night in Wheaton. They had their Flag of Honor, 2,000 flags, speeches, one by Staff Sergeant Alan Lynch, Medal of Honor recipient. Of course, the politicians were there as well. And they had a flyover. You know, it wasn't military jets or anything like that, but it was still a really nice flyover just to, because, of course, flight started here in America. There's so many things that we should be celebrated for, especially when it comes to technology. And so it was a very, very nice event. I must say there were a lot of flags, 2,000 on the field, another giant one hanging off of a fire truck. And this is the funny part, at least it's funny to me. They had a very large American flag, and on either side they had the City of Wheaton flag, and they had the Wheaton Park District side. Behind it, they had a flag representing all of the military services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and Space Force. What was missing? No Illinois flag. I couldn't believe it. Now, I'm probably the only one who really figured that out or looked at it and said, there's a flag missing here. It's the Illinois flag. They didn't have it. Okay, whatever. Park District flag more important than the Illinois flag, apparently, in Wheaton, at least. Well, I encourage people to get out and visit the Field of Honor in Wheaton, and also, go to your parades. Bring your children, inculcate them with how historic our founding was, and how important it is to continue to keep America free. Anyway, to discuss more about how you can get involved and visit America's battlefields. By the way, if you're watching me on Breakthrough Ideas YouTube or Breakthrough Ideas Facebook or AM 560's Facebook, you'll notice that I am wearing a flag that says, I'm helping save America's battlefields. And on the back of the shirt are a number of the battlefields that America's Battlefield Trust is helping to save. And so I really like the shirt. Great one. Anyway, we've got Bill Hupp here with us. He's the Board of Trustees chairman for the America's Battlefield Trust. He hails from Glen Ellen. And by background, he's an accountant, but he's got a lifelong love of military history. And so he joins us now to tell us more about America's Battlefield Trust and their mission. Thanks so much for coming on, Bill.
Hi, Jeannie. Thanks very much for having me on the show, and happy 250th Independence Day.
Yes, it's just terrific. So your trust doesn't necessarily control Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was formed up. It wasn't a battlefield after all. But do you work with the National Park Services in your preservation and outreach efforts at historical sites?
Yes, our goal is always to save the land, preserve the land, and obviously we're a little bit more nimble as a nonprofit to be able to do that because we're buying these properties at market value. So we're able to do that, and then over time they get integrated into either the National Park Service or local communities or state parks. So that's kind of how we work with them. We're not the long-term holders of these properties. We're just kind of the intermediate to get the land and preserve it, because that's the key thing. When it's available, we have to jump on it and get that. But we work extensively with National Park Service personnel. We get input to the lands that we should purchase from studies that were done back in the 1990s and 2000s in conjunction with a program called the American Battlefield Protection Program. And they went through and they essentially rated all the different battlefields for the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 in around 2007. And then in the late 1990s, they had gone through all the Civil War battlefields and done the same with them and kind of ranked them and coded them A, B, C, D in terms of their relative importance. And so that's what we use as our main goal guidance. And then we also take direct input from National Park Service supervisors that are on site and historians that are part of the National Park Service, and we have our own historians to make sure that we're getting the right properties. And interestingly enough, there is still important work being done a lot of times through battlefield archaeology to determine what actually happened, where the first big use of and maybe the most important use of the battlefield archaeology was out at Little Bighorn, and the whole history of that battle was rewritten. There was a fire that kind of cleared off the land, and that allowed them to go and do all this original research from that standpoint. And so it's really been developing as a tool. The most recent battlefield where we got a bunch of new evidence and have used that as part of the interpretation process is down in Camden, South Carolina, and part of the Revolutionary War and the Southern Campaign. So, so those are kind of the tools that we use to figure out what to save and how to do that. And it's history is an ongoing thing. It's amazing that there's still sources coming forth and these technology tools that we're able to use to better the stories and understand better the people that were involved there and the things that they did on the land itself.
So you probably don't want to divulge what land you've got your eyes on now, because maybe you're going to buy it at market rate and you don't want to up the ante. But there's definitely properties that you are looking at to purchase, and you could use some donations to help do so.
Right. Well, it's funny because all the battlefields are all laid out already. They're there, and so you can kind of see where the National Park Service has their properties and where they're and where there's opportunities. So the big opportunity that we just sent a mailer out with, which we're really excited about, because there's not that many battlefields from the War of 1812 in the United States itself. And maybe the most interesting one is the one down in New Orleans at Chalmette Battlefield, and where Andrew Jackson won a battle against the British right at the end of the war there. And there's a famous Bobby Horton song. We fired our guns and the British kept it coming. There wasn't quite as many as there was a while ago.
Yeah.
so that headlines our appeal. And it's a big number. It's 1.7 million. It's some land right next to the park that's there now, and it's where the British attack came over. Where the British attack came over, and it's about 1.7 million. And we've been able to whittle that down, and we've got some nice matching funds. So we actually have a 4-to-1 match on that. But that's our current appeal. So
a 4-to-1 match. That's huge.
Yeah, and that's kind of a modest match for us. We actually. I actually think we're the best public-private partnership out there in terms of kind of pitching the idea that permanently saving this land may be the best thing that you can do with your money in terms of having an impact on the future of the United States and keeping our story and our history going. So.
Well, if people, we'll repeat this because I have more questions for you, but if people do want to donate, they can go to battlefields.org, and they can look at their whole website. There's plenty of stuff there. And they can find really cool T-shirts like the one I'm wearing. And, of course, I got the 250 magnet for my car, too, which I just love driving around on because it's a reminder to people that this is our 250th year of independence.
Well, thank you for liking our gear and and using it. I also have a lot of it, and over time, it's got really good. So, we got baseball hats, we got all types of shirts and T-shirts and gear, and it's always fun when we go out on our battlefield tours with our members, and everybody's got the gear on. So,
well, maybe it's just because I'm Army. I just like the idea of like promoting a battlefield. Like, it's in my blood or something. I think the statistics are that about a third of our members are former military or military. So, so we are very popular, and you can try this too if you're out on a battlefield and you run into somebody and you start talking to them. It's going to be about, I'd say, about a third to about half of the people that you run into have a military background. The battlefields draw them back, and we find that, and so that's another benefit that I get out of supporting this process. Yeah, and then instinctively we're sitting up on the high ground and looking at the fields of fire, and where would I put out my platoon, and how would I angle them, and we're like just reliving our military tactics classes from a long time ago, because why not? It's fun.
Yeah, we have a number of tour guides, some from the Army War College, Doug Dowds being maybe the principal one, but the opportunity to use the battlefields for staff rides as part of the military education. That's another thing I'm very proud that when we're able to. There's a particular property down in Georgia at the Battle of Chickamauga where Minty's cavalry fought, and Jim Ogden, the chief historian down there, tells a great story about how he takes folks down there with the maps, and they've got their plans all set up, and then they actually see the land itself, the layout of the land, and the river crossing there, and they have to totally change their plans.
Of course.
The maps don't line up, and they don't necessarily tell you about the elevations and, as you say, the fields of fire and stuff. So,
terrain's important. I mean, like you do your MET-T analysis, mission, enemy, terrain, time, and troops available. And you have to look at that terrain. You can't make your battle plan without that. You can't do your 5-paragraph op board. None of that. So, moving on.
Those military history principles really they carry back through. So they actually work going back to the Revolutionary War. So.
Yes, they do. And West Point has they still use that type of analysis today. There's some things that are enduring. Also, the 9 principles of war are also enduring. I won't label those for you guys right now. Okay, so a lot of folks may be out on the East Coast this summer and want to visit battlefields. Which sites do you recommend they visit for the Revolutionary War?
Yeah, so the first thing I'd recommend is, as you already indicated, going out to our website and going to the Revolutionary War page, if you will. And on there, there's a whole bunch of resources that will help orient before your visit. So there's an animated map. There's all types of links to specific timelines and crash courses on things, and links to specific battles and battle maps. We're known for our battle maps. I think you've I don't know if you've had a chance to use any of those yet.
I did look at them.
But, yeah, so they're very helpful, and there's also there's even a page on there where you can go and put in the locations that you're going to be at, and it'll populate all the different historical sites and museums around there, and you kind of pick which ones you want, and it'll actually arrange a driving tour around that. So, so we've got those kind of tools on our website, and then specifically if the Revolutionary War was a long war, is 8 years, and if you start thinking about it from north to south up at Boston. With the major cities, and kind of go down the coast from north to south. In Boston, you want to get out and see Lexington and Concord, and the Battle Road and Bunker Hill. Those are kind of the big battlefields there that you want to see, and then all the other obvious historical things that are connected to that site too. Upstate New York, there's Fort Ticonderoga and the Battle of Saratoga, which the victory there brought the French into the war and made it really was kind of the key international thing that happened to give us the resources that we needed to continue on and win. Philadelphia, that's obviously a key place, as you brought up before, Independence Hall. We just released a number of virtual videos on virtual tours in conjunction with 250th. So if you can't make it, or if you want to go take a look and see what it's like beforehand, maybe you don't want to go there right now over this July 4th, it might be kind of crowded, and so you can watch those videos. Outside of Philadelphia itself, maybe the most important site I think in terms of the Revolutionary War, Valley Forge, is very well preserved, and there's all types of really great educational things there. One of the biggest battles of the war, Brandywine, was right outside of Philadelphia too. Lafayette had his first battle experience there, and contributed to the Patriot cause there, and was wounded. Across the river in New Jersey, there's Trenton, Princeton, where amazingly both part of the 10 crucial days of the war. We're coming up on the 250th anniversary there, first part of 2027, and so there should be some interesting things happening there. You can go to each of those different locations, and each of those different locations will have their 250th events. So again, this isn't just going to be a one-shot deal with July 4th. There'll be things in each of these different locations over time. If you're in the D.C., Virginia area, there's Yorktown. That's a great place too. Williamsburg. If you're in Charleston or Savannah, there's all types of sites there. And there's increasingly there's a number of these things that we've helped develop, which are called Liberty Trails, in conjunction with some of the local people there. And those kind of link these different sites together and give you an opportunity to put together something that would, be substantial in terms of the historical aspect, or you can just pick and choose from the parts that you're interested in.
All right. Hey, Bill, I think most people would be surprised that the Revolutionary War reached into what is now Illinois. Kaskaskia and Cahokia were two of those sites. Are they preserved by your trust or not?
Yeah, so we're always when we had not made any acquisitions in that area, but both Cahokia and Kaskaskia and the important site that they are tied to, Vincennes down in
Indiana,
southern Indiana. Yeah, those are all tied together by one man, and that's probably the best way to think about the Revolutionary War, is to think about these individual men. So part of the reason why George Washington gets so much coverage is that he pulls together all these different geographic sites and all these different events. Well, George Rogers Clark does that for the West, as they called it at the time. And Illinois was actually a territory of Virginia. And so there was all types of settlement going into the Kentucky area. And there was from Detroit and Michilimackinac, there were British forces coming down into this area. This was the Illinois area, including where the Ohio River and the Mississippi River come together, and all the trading related to that with the Indian tribes. That was all a very hotly contested area, and one of the causes of the war was the expansion of the population into those across the Allegheny to what we now call the Midwest. So, yeah, so there were even Spanish troops in St. Louis, and a battle in 1780 fought in St. Louis itself.
Wow, who would have thought? I don't think most people thought it ever reached that far.
Yeah, I think there was a fort with a cannon on it at the site of the baseball field of the Cardinals baseball field. So not much to see there except the Cardinals baseball, but they do have a good St. Louis Cardinals history museum there too. So feel like baseball history. So
yeah, that's great. I like all history. Hey, Bill.
But yes.
We gotta take a break here, but I want to thank you so much. Board of Trustees for America's Battlefield Trust. He's the chairman of the board and a local friend, and really appreciate what you all do. And if people want to get all these resources, take your kids on some of these Liberty Trails, you can go to battlefields.org, get your gear on, and get your passport and your trail map, and go visit history. Thanks, Bill, so much for coming on The Real Story.
Thank you very much, Jeannie.
All right.
Take care.
You bet. And we'll be right back.
Don't believe the official narrative? You've got the real story on AM 560. The Answer.
John was an active man. He'd go for runs, walk the golf course, and always take the stairs instead of the elevator. But then bone-on-bone knee pain got in the way.
Ow!
And affected his mobility. It became too painful to even go for walks. And when it seemed like John's only option was knee replacement surgery, a friend told him about the Joint Relief Institute and their affordable, non-surgical knee pain relief. John met with the Joint Relief Institute and discovered their lubricating gel treatment could rejuvenate his lost cartilage. Safe, effective, no surgery. Long story short, John is now back to being active without pain or medication.
There is an alternative to knee replacement surgery. Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oakbrook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted. Reclaim your mobility with the Joint Relief Institute.
Concerned about your retirement accounts or bank savings? Tired of stock market turbulence? Or simply curious about diversifying with precious metals? Tune into The Gold Show on AM 560, The Answer. Learn how gold and silver can help protect your financial future. Discover insights, strategies, and opportunities designed to help you make smarter decisions and guide you to more confident investing. Don't miss The Gold Show this Saturday morning at 11 on AM 560, The Answer.
The mainstream media isn't just biased. They're hiding stories from you, deliberately. Restoration News is changing that. With elite researchers and fearless writers, Restoration News is the conservative media force fighting back in the information war for America's future. Download the Restoration News mobile app today or visit restoration-news.com. That's restoration-news.com. Real stories, real truth. It's time you knew what they don't want you to know.
AM 560, The Answer.
Oh, beautiful, for heroes proved in liberating strife.
Welcome back. It's Jeanne Ives. You're listening to The Real Story. And we're just ahead of a huge celebration in America, our 250th. We can't forget that. Guess what else, though, we can't forget? Yesterday, and I'm sorry I didn't get to this yesterday, but there's new Illinois laws that have taken effect. And the biggest new Illinois law that took effect, of course, is the state budget. And it's a doozy, especially when you compare it to Florida, which I did. And you can read that comparison on my Facebook page. But just briefly, Florida has 1.8 times the population of Illinois. And yet the Florida general revenue budget is $52 billion. The Illinois general revenue budget is $56 billion. And by the way, DeSantis has lowered the amount spent every year for the last 4 years. And he vetoed over $10 billion in spending during his time in office. Pritzker's budget is up $16 billion, and he's never given us a break. DeSantis returned $9 billion to the taxpayer. Illinois has raised taxes about $77 billion in total, according to IPI. And Florida's rainy day fund is $18 billion. Illinois' rainy day fund is $2 billion. The contrast could not be starker between how these two people governed for the last 8 years. Folks, if you want to prevent tyranny, which is basically taking your money and using it for other purposes that the government shouldn't be doing, then you need to start fighting in Illinois. The revolution does continue. Have a great weekend. Hope you'll be hearing the same broadcast tomorrow. And as we leave, we'll go back to John Kahn and his ode to America.
It ain't that purple mountain's majesty. It ain't the fruited plain.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify.